A stupid fatty gets transported to another world, with a chance to bring back all skills and items he acquired there to the real world, making him an overpowered human. Before this, Yuya was just a fat and ugly-looking middle school student. He laments as he walks by the road on how his birth is a mistake, because people do not see him as a real person. Also, he adds that he has been invincible even to his parents, but then he believes there would be a moment where he would be able to help someone in need so as to save the day. Later on, while Yuya walks down a street, he sees some men harassing a girl after she politely refuses their offer of having tea with them. At first, Yuya watches from afar, but because of his determination to help someone, he is unable to walk away and instead, he moves closer to the men with his heart racing fast, as if it is about to jump out from his chest. Getting to them, despite being scared, he tells the men politely that they should let the girl go as she has refused their offer. But then, one of the men moves closer to him and calls him an ugly and uncultured swine for butting into their conversation. Despite the insult, Yuya refuses to take his leave, and this causes the men to start beating him up as one of them tells him he does not like the look on his face. Soon, he begins to bleed on his face as he lays there embarrassed like a pig laid to be slaughtered. Suddenly, the men hear a police vehicle coming and flee from the scene, while the lady goes to meet Yuya to help him up. But then, he rejects her help and tells her not to worry about him as he walks away. On his way home, Yuya remembers his grandfather's words of always treating those in trouble with kindness while using his own courage. But remembering this, Yuya gets disappointed that he does not possess the courage to help others in need. Getting home, he begins to recount how his fat appearance annoys a lot of people around him, including his parents. Then he also remembers how his classmates at school bullies and makes fun of his appearance, and even when he gets home, his mother and father scolds him and treats him like an animal because he is not like his younger siblings who are more beautiful than he is. Laying on the ground, Yuya also remembers how his grandfather, who was the only one who loved him for who he has died, thus leaving him all his possessions and house. But when his parents tried to collect the possessions and they were not successful, they gave up and renounced their responsibilities to him. Finally, it is Yuya's graduation day from middle school, and when he checks his notebook, it is filled with insultive words from his classmates, which does not bother him. Then suddenly, he runs off so as to meet up for his job as a newspaper delivery boy. But as he is about to leave, some of his classmates come to bully him, and when he pleads with them to let him go to his work, they continue to beat him and waste his time. Later that evening, Yuya goes to his boss to explain why he was not able to resume for his shift, but before he could say anything, the boss unfortunately fires him and tells him not to come again. Getting home in utmost sadness, Yuya, after eating, punches the mirror in anger as he tells himself he does not want to see what he looks like again. He continues to punch the wall and cries at the same time until he notices that the wall has opened up like an entrance, which he suddenly gets pulled into. Getting into the unknown place, Yuya sees a hidden room with strange souvenirs from his grandfather's trip to some places in the world. But while checking out the room, he also sees a strange door which smells like death and opens the door anyway only to find another room. He tries to enter the room but suddenly sees a status bar shown by a system which notify him that he has gotten new skills. Seeing this, Yuya gets startled as he realizes that the place looks like a different world from the one he stays in. However, he enters the room and he begins to check the menu bar only for him to realize within himself that everything here looks like a video game. He proceeds to check the functions, which he is unable to understand. Then he goes to check through the window of the room, only for him to realize that the place is indeed another world. However, while checking out the strange world, Yuya notices a note on the table, and when he checks it, he realizes it is written in a language he does not know. Because of his inability to read the note, the system immediately shows him a language comprehension skill he can use to read the note. He uses the skill, and when he reads the note, he notices that it was written by the former owner of the house called the Sage and had left the right of ownership to anyone who found the house. Having found out the content of the note, Yuya realizes he had just become a house owner by mistake and wonders who the Sage was. But then he continues to explore the room until he sees some weapons and picks a sword from it, which happens to be more dangerous than he had imagined it to be. Then he proceeds to go out of the door leading to the strange world, only for him to get more fascinated as he opens the door and wonders if all of the land around the house also belongs to him. However, Yuya tries to wield the sword but falls, and realizes at the moment that he has acquired a new swordsmanship skill. Then he immediately tries out all of the other deadly weapons he found in the room. After playing for a while, Yuya checks his stats to see if it has changed, but gets disappointed when he realizes he is still on level 1, but notices that a new true martial arts skill is added to his skills. While he puts the weapons in the item box, he suddenly gets attacked by a bloody ogre. On seeing the monster, Yuya becomes scared because he thinks he would die, but fortunately, the ogre is unable to enter his surroundings as it is blocked by a force field. He then checks the ogre's level to know what his fate might be if the ogre gets to him, only to realize that the ogre is on level 300, which is way higher than his current level. Out of fear, he decides to throw his spear at the ogre, but before he could do so, he trembles with fear as the ogre smells like his death, but he summons the courage to throw the spear, which leads to him being able to defeat it, and his level increases up to 100, as well as his stats increases. The ogre disappears and leaves some items behind, which, when he takes them, the system shows him what the items are and what they can be used for. Later on, Yuya goes to the strange room and decides to call it a night by going back home. But as he is about to leave the room, the system shows him that asset conversion skill had converted some of his items into real money.
Oh my god! Wow!
Which he picks up and goes home to sleep. While trying to sleep that night, Yuya begins to yell in pain and does not know what is happening to him until the pain stops and he is able to sleep peacefully. The next morning, Yuya wakes up to a surprise of seeing himself with 6 packs and thin hands, but does not get the idea. When he stands up, he realizes that his clothes have become bigger and proceeds to check the mirror, but remembers he has spoiled it the night before, and reminds himself of the fact that he does not want to see his ugly face at all. He tells himself that his body feels weird as he goes to the room in the other world to find what he can wear. And after seeing neatly packed clothes, he goes to the garden where he sees some strange plants there, which when he checks a particular plant, he realizes that it can cure all illness. Thereafter defeating a slime monster and getting rewards from it, Yuya decides to sew a new uniform to prepare for his first day at high school as he leaves the house, and also goes to the library out of curiosity to read about some existing worlds. On getting to school the following day, Yuya notices that a lot of people are staring at him, but goes on to his classroom, where one of the bullies comes closer to him to ask him who he is, and he tells him he is Yuya, only for everyone to become shocked. Everyone is finding it hard to believe him, but he continues to tell them that he is the one. Suddenly, he leaves the classroom and heads for the restroom, where he screams as he sees how handsome he has become as he no longer looks like an unfortunate fatso that he was. Later that day, Yuya, who has become popular in school for his sudden makeover, is being told that he has visitors. Getting to the so-called visitors, he sees a lady who asks him if he is Yuya Tenchu, and why he has slimmed down. Seeing her and hearing her questions, Yuya becomes surprised, and the girl tells him that she is the girl he had saved the other night from the badme. At that moment, Yuya remembers the night, and the girl tells him that she had found out about him, and she would like to thank him for his help by inviting her to her super elite school for the rich, Aosei Academy, shocking Yuya. The lady introduces herself as Kori Huju, whose father is the chairman of Aosei Academy, and she is also one of the members of the Students' Council. The attendant who followed Kori explains better to Yuya that Kori's father wants to thank him very much for his help, which is why he is invited to join the school. Meanwhile, Yuya's younger siblings attend the same school as him, and when they hear about this new development, they immediately meet Kori and beg that they would like to attend her school too. But she politely puts them off by telling them that Yuya is the only worthy person. Kori is able to convince Yuya to follow her to the school for a trial, and when he agrees they take their leave, leaving Yuya's siblings to take vow of making Kori and Yuya pay for the humiliation they caused them. On getting to Aosei Academy, Yuya gets so awed on seeing the school buildings. Also, they head to the chairman's office, and he introduces himself as Suzaka, Kori's father. He thanks Yuya for saving his daughter, and that he would like him to join the school. But Yuya replies that Yuya is not someone that would fit in such an environment. But then, Suzaka faces Yuya, and tells him about the skills he possesses as an individual, which makes him more fit to join their school. Also, he adds that he would not have to worry about tuition as a token of his appreciation for saving his daughter. After much talk about hard work and talents, Suzaka talks to Yuya about how he is depreciating himself. Hearing this, Yuya begins to think that Suzaka is talking to him like his grandfather does. However, Suzaka tells him to do a trial enrollment for the day, and to do this, he summons a teacher named Miss Sawada to take Yuya to her class. On getting to the class, Yuya becomes scared as he thinks he would not be accepted because of how he had been treated in his previous school. Miss Sawad introduces Yuya to the class, but they did not reply to him when he greeted them, causing him to overthink as he tries to refrain from crying. Unknown to him that, on the other hand, the students begin to wonder why he is so handsome. Miss Sawada shows him where to sit before she begins her lesson. During lunch, most of the students gather around Yuya as they ask him a series of questions until one of the students comes and tells the other students to leave Yuya alone as he has not had his lunch yet. The student introduces himself as Ryu and Yuya compliments his handsomeness, which Ryu finds weird of him and invites him to eat at the cafeteria. On getting there, Yuya becomes shocked at the menu they have for his students, which makes Ryu tell him about their everyday specials, just in case they do not know what to get. After getting their lunch, Yuya and Ryu gets invited to a table by another classmate named Shingo, and when they all sit together, Ryu and Shingo talk about the latest anime. While the others talk, Yuya notices that everyone's eyes are fixed on him because of his uniform, but Ryu replied to him that it is because of how handsome he looks. Later that evening, Yuya goes to see Suzaka, who asks him if he would like to get enrolled into the academy. Although, Yuya tells him what he likes about the school, but he is scared if Suzaka would like to enroll someone like him. After much persuasion, Yuya becomes elated and agrees to enroll into the school, but with Tasaka's guidance. There, Yuya sees Kori, who asks him if he has agreed to join their school, which when he tells her the good news, she becomes happy as well and invites him to go and get some snacks. While they have their snacks, Yuya begins to worry that he might go back to his old self if he starts to eat too much.
Wait a minute!
But then, after overcoming a weird silence, the two continue to talk while some onlookers tag them as a happy couple. On getting home, Yuya decides to go to the other world to get more items to convert because he might not get the time once he has started school at Auste Academy. He wears his gears and defeats a huge slime monster, but when he checks his stats, he realizes he is at level 235, which makes him tell himself that he is leveling up slowly, and he would need to go outside the house to defeat more monsters. As he is about to leave the compound, he suddenly hears someone yell out loud, making him immediately takes a weapon to go and check who the person is. On getting to the scene, he sees some dead monsters and a dead man, and as well sees a huge monster trying to harm a lady. Yuya immediately checked the level of the monster and sees that it is on level 200, which is below his, and proceeds to defeat the monster. But then, just when he thought he is done, the lady yells at him to look behind him for another monster that is behind him, which she defeats immediately. But as he moves to check the lady, she becomes unconscious as she asks him who he is. At home, while Yuya irons his clothes, he remembers the girl he saved the previous night whom some men had come to help her, while he hid in the bushes with his stealth mode skill. Then, at that moment, he notices that he has only one cloth, and he decides to go and get some more at the mall, as he already has enough money to spend. At the mall, Yuya notices that he is being stared at and hurriedly enters a store while the people around wonder if he is an actor, because he is showing off his bets like charm all over the mall. On the other hand, a director at the mall is furious as one of his models did not show up on time for their shoot. He yells at the model's manager, who assures him that his boss is coming. Soon the director becomes impatient and tells his team they would have to look for someone else to replace the model so as to continue with the shoot. To do this, the director takes the members of his team and he tells them to go to every store in the mall to see if they would find a male who would fit the role of the model. On the other hand, while shopping for clothes, Yuya becomes surprised at the varieties of clothes he is seeing until two ladies approach him to ask if he had a free time, and he politely tells them off. But then he begins to feel bad about his actions, as he thinks he was being rude to tell them that he is busy when they asked such question. However, Yuya walks into another store where the director sees him and believes he has just found the right guys. He walks up to Yuya and asks him politely for the favor, which he immediately agrees to as he does not want to feel bad for turning him down as well. Soon the shoot begins and Yuya is made to take pictures with another celebrity model called Mew. After a while that the shoot begins, Mew tells Yuya to be calm, and when he eventually decides not to be a burden and do better, the director tells Mew to link her arms with Yuya, making him suddenly feels her petite-sized melons on his arms and begins to cry on the inside.
Did you pray today?
He also wonders if he is the same age as Mew, as he finds her fascinating and efficient in her work. Being a perv, he takes a last look at her melons, and he tries to regain his composure as she places the whole package on his chest. Meanwhile, on the other hand, the girl Yuya, saved from the forest, wakes up and begins to think of him as her knight in shining armor. Suddenly, she stands up to take her leave, which makes her guards ask her where she is heading to, and she tells them she is going back to the man who saved her, in order to express her gratitude as a member of the royal family. The head guard tells her about the dangers in the forest, and she replies that they would all be following her to meet her savior. However, Yuya and Mai sit for a short break, and he becomes nervous around her, but she tells him to relax, leading to him telling her how exhausting her job is, as he had never thought of him to be a model. Hearing this, she tells him that she became a model so as to be seen by people, and now she is able to become an inspiration for other people. The two talk and later on begin to laugh while Hikaru, the director, takes cute pictures of them together. Suddenly, someone comes in and tells them all not be angry that he is late because he had taken a lot of grape juice the night before, which gave him a bad hangover. The crowd present in the mall immediately recognizes the man as Shu, a popular model. Suddenly, he moves to Miu and tells her they should finish the silly shoot and get something to eat while they meet at his house later. He begins to flirt with Miu, which Yuya makes uncomfortable, and tries to get his attention by telling him Miu does not like what he is doing to her. Having felt insulted, Shu yells at him and tries to hit him, but Yuya immediately holds him and pins him down in style. Surprisingly, just when Yuya thinks he is wrong for what he has just done, he suddenly sees that the people watching cheer for him as they think what he did was cool. Hikaru tells Xiao he had recorded the exchange and would post it if he tries to do anything rash, making Xiao stand up in shame and run away. Hikaru goes to meet the two, and Miu tells him that Xiao had been following her around for a while, which he immediately apologizes for on his behalf and promises her they would take the issue to their bosses for everyone to know his true character. Hikaru offers Yuya modeling jobs, but Yuya politely refuses as he thinks that he already has too much in his hands. Then Hikaru also tells him that they would not be able to pay him in cash as they do not have any contract binding them, so he gives Yuya all of the clothes he had used to model for free, and when he tries to refuse it, Miu talks to him and he accepts the gifts. On her way home, Miu tells Hikaru that she feels bad that Yuya did not take the job, but she strongly feels they would meet again, only for Hikaru to begin teasing her for blushing while looking at the pictures she took with Yuya. At home, Yuya goes into the forest, hoping that he would kill more monsters. But on getting to a part of the forest, he helps some knights and a lady out by helping them defeat monsters, as well as healing one of their wounded knights. Suddenly, the lady walks up to him and tells him to marry her out of the blues, making Yuya, alongside the other guards, surprised. The head guard immediately yells at the lady, calling her by her name, Lexia. Then he asks her why she proposed to a man she had just met, and Lexia tells him that she had fallen in love with him right from the moment she set her eyes on him. However, Yuya interrupts the two and tells them that they should all go to his house, as the forest is not safe for them, getting the head guard surprised that a human is living in the woods. Getting to his house, Yuya serves the guards some tea, and the head guard introduces himself as Owen, while he introduces the girl as Lexia, who is the first princess of the kingdom of Arcelia. Yuya becomes shocked as he asks Owen if he is not in trouble for speaking to Lexia frankly, but replies that he is not. Also, Yuya introduces himself as well, and Owen tells him that he has not heard such a strange name before. But Lexia pulls him to his side and tells Owen that Yuya might be a noble or at most a royalty, as their love would be fascinating if they are both from royalties. Lexia also tells Yuya that she wanted to offer her thanks in person and moves so close to Yuya to tell him that her heart has not stopped racing ever since she met him, because she had fallen in love with him, and part of her appreciation would be for him to marry her. Hearing this, Yuya is shocked to the spine as he does not think a proposal counts as a mode of appreciating a kind gesture, and tells her that it is too sudden to request for such. But she tells him that they should start off by being friends for now. Because of this, Yuya thinks about how he was being treated when he was still a fatso, and tells Lexia that he would be her friend if she wants to be friends with someone like him. Later on, Owen relays the king's message to see Yuya in his palace, as he wants to thank him personally for saving his daughter. But Yuya tells them that he has some things lined up for the week, and Owen tells him that he should come anytime he is chanced. Yuya bids them goodbye as they leave his house, and Lexia tells him that she would try to win his heart the next time they meet. Meanwhile, an assassin goes to meet his boss and relays his message of being unable to kill Lexia, as she was attacked by a monster. But as the boss gives him another chance to kill Lexia, the boss yells as he removes his mask and promises to make Lexia pay for what she has done to him. The following morning, Yuya dresses up for school in his new uniform, and on his way to school, a lot of people begin to admire him for his handsomeness. On getting to school, he meets with Suzaka, who congratulates him on enrolling into Valsei Academy, and tells him that he is going out as they would talk better when he gets back. Yuya goes to his classroom and sees his two friends Ryu and Shingo, which makes him happy as he is determined to do better than his previous fat body. During sports time, some boys play football while some of the girls play tennis, but Yuya only watches them and talks out loud that Shingo had told him that Ryu is amazing, and a girl agrees with him that he is right about that and introduces herself as Kid Kazama. Kid sits beside Yuya and asks him why he is sitting and not playing, and he replies that his gym clothes have not arrived yet. On the field, Ryu makes a pass to another student, and when the student tries to kick the ball into the net to show off his skills, he mistakenly aims it at Kid, which makes Yuya immediately stands up and slicks the ball in style into the net, which makes everyone surprised at how Yuya is able to make such a move. The student named Akira immediately goes to bow to Kid to apologize for aiming the ball at her, which she forgives him for. Then Akira introduces himself to Yuya as the young noble of Valsei Academy and tells him that he hopes they become friends. On the other hand, Tori goes to the ladies' changing room, where she notices that the ladies are talking about Yuya with their naked rice cakes and barely covered melons, but when she asks, Kid makes a rough explanation while another student from their class explains what had happened briefly. The ladies begin to wonder if Yuya has a girlfriend, only for Tori and Kid to suddenly become defensive at the same time, but get embarrassed at themselves when they realize this, and Tori begins to think of what to do. The boys go for a swim class, while some of the students, including Tori, goes for their round of the sports, when, all of a sudden, Yuya sights Tori from his classroom and Tori waves at him. While waving back at Tori, Yuya suddenly sees some thugs breaking into the school on motorcycle, and the ladies begin to scream out loud, thus attracting the attention of the whole school. Every student immediately recognizes the gang as the Red Ogre's gang, and the teachers go out and try to send the gangs away, but they are unable to do so. Tori talks to the gang and pleads with them to leave their school, but when she notices Yuya's brother and sister, she asks them the reason why they are causing troubles, and they tell her that they want to pay her back for ignoring them and accepting their stupid brother into the academy. Yuya's brother tells Araki, the leader of the gang, to abduct Tori, which makes Yuya, who has been watching from his class, try to go and save her, only for his body to begin trembling with fear. He starts to wonder why this is so, as he has defeated many monsters in the other world. But as he continues to zone out and the other students wonder what is wrong with him, Kid suddenly slaps him to regain his consciousness, and when he does, he tells them that he is going to save Tori and decides to jump down from the window. The students are shocked at how Yuya jumps down from the 4th floor to go and rescue Tori. Some of the members of the gang try to stop him, but he beats them up, making a huge member of the gang try to defeat him. But Yuya shows him that he is no match for him, after which he goes to meet Tori and asks her if she is okay. Suddenly, while they talk, Araki takes his motorcycle and tries to crush Yuya, but he fortunately dodges the attack and makes him crash on a staircase at the entrance of the school. Soon the police arrive and arrest the members of the gang, but when Araki tries to injure Yuya's brother and sister, Yuya immediately tells him to stop as he holds his hands and asks his brother, Yuta, if he is okay. But then, when Yuya asks him why he is nice to them, he replies that he has not forgiven them for what they had done to him, but he could not watch them suffer as they are still part of his family. Hearing this, the two begin to cry as they ask their elder brother for forgiveness, and when Tori sees this, she realizes that Yuya has a good heart. Later on, Yuya goes to the other world to explore, but before he starts his journey, he remembers what Owen had told him about the darkest region, which is said to be the home of dangerous monsters. He does not mind and goes to explore the place anyway, but after defeating some monsters, he suddenly hears a loud noise, and when he gets to where the noise is coming from, he sees a huge monster trying to defeat a cute little monster dog, and begins to think if he should leave or rescue the little dog. While thinking of what to do, he also has a second thought of if he would be able to defeat the huge monster, but then he suddenly jumps into the brawl like a superhero and is surprisingly able to defeat the huge monster. He tries to rescue the little dog, but the dog gets defensive and begins to growl at him. Understanding what the dog is going through, he brings out a healing potion from his item box, but the little dog does not take it and suddenly passes out due to its deep wounds. Fortunately, Yuya is able to save the dog, and when it wakes up, He becomes happy that he is able to rescue it on time, and he asks if the dog has parents. To his surprise, the dog can comprehend what he is saying, which makes asks further if it would like to stay with him. To which the dog agrees to, and he decides to give it a name called Night because of its black fur. Getting to the sage's house, Yuya uses a cone, which is an item he got from defeating the monster that attacked Night to calm its fur and also check its stats. To his surprise, Night happens to be very strong, but when he checks his own stats, he is not surprised to see that he is not leveled up after defeating a huge monster. But he doesn't seem to be bothered by it, as he tells himself that he would understand how the stats work later. Then he continues to pet Night while they enjoy the evening together. The following day, when Yuya gets to school, he tells his classmates about his new dog, and Keed becomes so excited that she gets uncomfortably close to Yuya, as she asks him questions about his new dog. During their conversation, Shingo recommends an animal hospital for Yuya just in case, and when Yuya asks if any of his friends could follow him to get some stuffs, Ryu and Shingo tells him that they have plans, but when he asks Keed, she seems to be more than willing to follow him, as she tells him she is free, and also adds that it would serve as a date for them. On getting home, he shows Night the things he got for him, and he uses a collar and a leash on Night as he asks him if he would like to take a walk. Yuya takes a walk with Night that evening, and while he walks through the park, a lot of people admire him and his dog, until he suddenly meets Cory, and while they talk, he introduces Night as a new member of his family. Looking at the dog, Cory asks what kind of breed Night is, and he replies that he does not know. Meanwhile, a lot of onlookers begin to whisper that Yuya looks good with his girlfriend and his dog. Suddenly, Yuya hears his name, and when he checks to look for who mentioned his name, he suddenly sees Miu. The two of them exchange pleasantries, but Cory becomes jealous on seeing how familiar Yuya is with Miu. Yuya introduces Cory and Night to Miu, but when Miu sees that she is already attracting much attention, she tells Yuya that they would meet later, as she does take a walk in the park, because her house is nearby. As Miu leaves, Cory asks Yuya if he is going out with Maya.
Yep.
To which he replies that he only met her once, and besides, he is not good enough for her. Hearing this, Cory yells at him for thinking he is not good looking. Suddenly, they hear a woman screaming that her purse has been snatched by a thief, and just when they hear this, Yuya sees the culprit and immediately tells Night to go after the purse snatcher while he and Cory go to meet the woman to ask if she is okay. Night drags the thief to where Yuya is, and as Cory tries to call the police on him, the thief immediately tries to attack her with a knife, but Yuya stops him by holding his hand and twists it to the back. The police arrive in no time and arrest the thief, while the people watching commends Yuya and his dog, but Cory thanks Yuya for saving her life for the second time before she leaves. Later that night, Yuya and Night go to the other world, where they both begin to explore the forest by defeating monsters together. But unlike before, Yuya is able to defeat more monsters than he used to do alone. Suddenly, Yuya sees a huge monster named the Crystal Deer, and as he tries to defeat the monster, it uses magic to defend itself, and after some time of fighting, Yuya is able to defeat it with the help of his trusted sidekick, Night. The deer drops some items, but Yuya notices a rare item, which, when he checks the appraisal, he realizes that the item is a bath, and is stunned to realize it is a real bath. He goes home with Night, where they rest while taking their bath, which makes them feel very good. The next day, Yuya and Night set out for the forest to explore again, and after defeating a weird monster, they discover a cave which they entered. On entering the cave, Yuya realizes he is unable to sense any living monster, but he is shocked at what he sees in there. Shockingly, he sees a corpse which freaks him out so badly, while Night on the other hand discovers a book, and when he reads the title says it is the Book of the Old Sage. Yuya reads the content of the book and sees that it was written by the sage, but when he starts to read it, the sage had addressed the book to whoever found it, as he stated in the book the implications of the powers he had gotten which made him lost. He adds a piece of advice for the bearer of the book to cherish relationships that are special to him, so as not to lose himself like he had done. Yuya likens the words of the book to himself and begins to wonder if he is doing a great job by protecting his newly found relationships. Then suddenly the book speaks to him, which made him think he was first imagining things at first, but the book uses the voice of the sage to tell him to wish for any knowledge, and it would be printed on the book. Being sure that he has heard right, Yuya tries to think of what knowledge he needs, and soon wishes to know more about magic, and immediately the book becomes filled with knowledge about magic. The sage tells Yuya that in order to use magic, he would need to possess the magical pathways, but unfortunately as a person living in another world he would not possess one. Then the sage tells him that he would gladly grant him his magical pathways, and suddenly, some inscriptions on the book begin to come to life and they find their way into Yuya's body. Seeing this, Knight immediately checks to see if his companion is okay, and Yuya tells him that he is fine. Yuya leaves the cave after thanking the sage for bestowing a huge power on him. And on getting home, Yuya continues to read the book and tries to use magic, as he read in the book that he can imagine any kind of magic he wants. Yuya meditates for a while, is able to feel the magical surges in him. But when he asks Knight, Knight confirms that he also felt the same surge, which makes him excited that he is making progress. He goes outside to try magical power, which he calls a water blast, but when he aims the magic at a tree, he shoots it with Knight doing its own as well. On seeing the effect, he realizes how powerful the magical power is and tells Knight that he is glad that they are able to use magic together. However, in the kingdom of Arcelia, Owen answers to the king and explains Yuya's appearance to him, and also adds Lexia's marriage proposal to Yuya, which makes the king angry that Yuya had seduced his daughter. The king begins to yell as he tears down some statues in the palace, while Owen hides as he wonders why the members of the royal family are troublesome. In school, Yuya thinks of what he read in the sage's book, as he remembers that the sage had warned him not to use what he has learned in other worlds, as it may not be common. However, Miss Sawada tells her students that they would be going for their off-campus study, and they would divide them into groups. After the grouping, Yuya and Keed happen to be in the same group, as well as Akira and another member of his class named Rin. Yuya announces that he does not have a backpack for the off-campus trip and decides to tell his friends to follow him to shop for a backpack. Later that evening, Ryu, Shingo, Keed, and Kaori with Rin decide to follow Yuya, and Kaori thanks them for allowing her to join them, while Shingo is surprised that he is friends with the most popular girl in school. They all enter the mall and Kaori picks out a nice bag for Yuya. After getting what they wanted to buy, the group of friends come across an arcade, and Shingo suddenly sees an item that he likes in a crane game. Seeing this, Yuya decides to try the game too to see if he would be able to get it, and uses his detect weakness skill to check the weak point of the item so as to drop it using the crane. At the end, Shingo becomes happy that he gets the items, and the other students also tell Yuya that they would like to get some other items from the crane game as they see that he is very good at it. Ryu gets an anime case, Kaori gets a bear badge, and Rin gets a pen case, while Keed gets a stuffed animal. Yuya becomes excited that he is able to make his friends happy by getting them things. After leaving the arcade, the boys decide to go to the cafe to get tea, while the girls go to the 13th floor to shop for girls' fashion items. On getting to the cafe, Ryu gets a cup of coffee, and he complains about how bitter the coffee is, but he tells his friends that they are not real men because real men take coffee. Yuya tells his friends how their outing means a lot to him, when Ryu tells him to help him get sugar and milk as he is unable to drink the coffee. At that moment, when Yuya makes to stand up to get the things his friend asked for, they suddenly hear the sound of an alarm. Yuya and his friends stand up as they announce that there is a fire outbreak at the arcade, which is on the 10th floor. But as they evacuate the premises, he notices that the girls are not out yet and tells Shingo and Ryu to leave the building while he runs to the 13th floor to save the girls. Getting to the floor, he uses his magical skills to search for the girls, and fortunately sights them. He carries them amidst the fire and gets them outside the building, using his magical powers to guard them from the fire. When he gets outside, the firefighters help him with the girls while they tell him to get himself checked as well. Also, the firefighters scolds him for being reckless, but Suzeka thanks him for saving Kaori again. On getting home, he buys a lot of food and tells Knight they would feast to their fullest. Yuya takes Knight to the other world where he learns more magic, and this time he wants to be able to teleport. However, after following the instructions from the book, he is able to teleport from the room and meet himself in the woods. Because of this, Yuya becomes excited and tells Knight that they should explore the forest. But soon, they come across a cave and Yuya uses his magical skill to create light for them in the cave that smells like death. Suddenly, they come across a ton of monsters, which they are about to defeat. Thanks to their magical powers, they are able to defeat the monsters. Yuya packs the items they got from the monsters into his item box, and after moving out of the cage to go home, Knight shows its displeasure in leaving so soon, but Yuya assures him that they would come back soon. Suddenly, Knight hears a strange voice, and immediately runs into the forest while Yuya calls out to him. Eventually, it stops abruptly and tells Yuya to check his surroundings, which he obeys and suddenly sees some huge monsters lurking in front of a young girl, but the wounded young girl is unable to do anything, which makes Yuya decide to help the girl. But then, Knight pulls his stubborn companion and tries to stop him from saving the girl.
Hey, bro, come on now, dawg.
But Yuya does not understand why Knight is behaving in such a weird manner. The wounded damsel in distress suddenly uses a weird skill to eliminate the monsters in front of her, surprising Yuya as the attack was so swift that he is unable to see it. The girl becomes outnumbered by the monsters, making Yuya jump in to help, and with Knight's help also, he is able to defeat the monsters. But before he finishes, the girl falls down unconscious. However, Yuya and Knight defeat more monsters and Yuya carries the girl. But on their way home, he asks Knight if he should take her home, but Knight disagrees. Suddenly, the girl wakes up and pushes Yuya away, causing her to fall down and hit her head. Yuya gives her his cure all-herb drink, which, when she takes it, she feels better, and thanks him so much for saving her. She introduces herself as Luna and Yuya asks her what she is doing in the forest, to which she replies that she was training. Luna asks Yuya the same question, and he lies by also telling her that he was training as well. As they are about to leave, Luna tells Yuya that she is sweaty, and she cannot go into town the way she is, which makes Yuya offer her a bath in his house, which she accepts. While in the bath, Luna appreciates Yuya for the bath and asks him if he can stay and train with her. After thinking about it, he decides to accept because she would continue to train alone in dangerous places if he refuses her. Hearing this, and out of excitement, Luna jumps out of the bath, revealing the pathway in between her melons, which makes Yuya become embarrassed and tells her not to do such again. Later, Yuya and Luna begin to train together for some days, and Yuya is able to learn more from Luna, while she is also able to improve in using her thread skills in defeating more monsters. On their last day of training together, Yuya tells Luna that he would not be training with her from the next day, as he would be going on his off-campus trip in school. Luna, however, thanks him and Knight for what they have done for her in helping her grow stronger. That evening, while Yuya and Knight take a bath, he tells Knight that he wonders why Luna let him take a bath first, as she prefers taking hers first. Suddenly at that moment, Luna enters the bath and tells Yuya that she wanted them to take their bath together, so as to help him wash his back as a token of her appreciation. Seeing her, Yuya is shocked as he sees Luna wrapped in a towel, while exposing the other parts of her body, which looks as smooth as silk. Yuya agrees to let Luna wash his back for the last time they would be seeing each other. While washing his back, Luna tells Yuya that she is grateful for him during the time they have spent together, as well as how he is able to show her the right way of living. Hearing this, Yuya becomes surprised at what Luna has said, and when he turns to ask what she meant, he suddenly sees that her towel has fallen off and immediately tells her to pick it up as he can see her melons and floodgates. Because of this, Luna becomes embarrassed as she immediately picks up the towel to cover her body and yells at Yuya not to stare at her. The next day, while on the bus with his classmates for their off-campus trip, and is playing a game of cards with his friends, Yuya yawns continually, and after a while, he tells his friends that he needs to sleep for a while, which Rin assures him that they would wake him up once they arrive at their destination. Then, Yuya begins to wonder why he has been winning the game of cards, and eventually concludes that it must be because of his lucky points. He also remembers the naked Luna and wonders if that happened as a result of his luck as well. Soon he falls asleep and gets woken up by Rin when they arrive at their destination. The students come out of the bus to admire the huge building in front of them, and are asked to enter the building and have their clothes changed, while they all gather to be addressed by Miss Sawada. Later, Miss Sawada explains to the students that they are to find their own food, and before they cook anything, they should show the teachers around to know if it is edible or not. She also calls Miss Yoki, their school doctor, a creepy doctor, who shows the students a weird liquid content in a bottle, as she explains to them that it would be used to cure any student that takes in anything poisonous. The students become scared and also get a great shock when Miss Sawada tells them that they would be camping outside, while the teachers stay in the beautiful building. The students set off to go and build their tents and hunt for fishes, but Rin tells Yuya and Keed to get the fishes while she and Akira build the tent. Yuya and Keed get to the river and meet the other students already fishing there. Seeing this, Yuya uses his skills to know what side most fishes are, and on getting to the side of the river, he begins to catch the fishes in style. The other students leave their fishes, and they begin to wonder how Yuya is able to get more fishes than them, as he is using his hands instead of the fishing pole. Soon, Keed tells Yuya that he has gotten more fish than they need, which he apologizes for as he tells her that he started having fun and that made him distracted. On the other hand, Luna goes back to her house and she continues with her training, when she recounts that she would not have been an assassin if she had met Yuya earlier. But then, she is supposed to be good at what she does as a member of the Dark Guild, which is also known as the Headhunter. Yuya and Keed return to their group and Keed explains how Yuya was able to catch the fishes with his bare hands, which Rin commends him for the work he has done. But then, Yuya becomes scared as he sees Akira laying on the floor, and when he asks what is wrong with him, the Drama King begins to explain how Rin had made him work and uses him to test if the plants were poisonous or not. Hearing this information, Yuya becomes shocked and immediately uses his skills to check if there is anything wrong with Akira's health, but gets relieved on realizing that he is fine. The group gathers their mushrooms and vegetables with the fishes, and Yuya decides to use his skills to check if the plants are not poisonous, and he is only able to find one poisonous plant. Yuya removes the plant and they all go to the building to show the teachers before cooking it. There, Yuya sees Kaori, and they decide to chat a little as they ask each other if the trip is going well for them. However, Kaori leaves and Akira goes to meet Yuya and tells him that he is envious of the kind of relationship he has with Kaori, to which Yuya replies by telling him that Kaori is an amazing person. Anyways, the group goes to show their plans to Miss Sawada, and she commends them as they are the only team that brought much food without any poisonous plant. She also asks the team who would cook the food, and they all point at Yuya, who goes back outside with his team members as he begins to cook some delicacies. Having done well with the cook, his teammates eat the food without any complaint. Then Miss Sawada comes to meet them and asks if she can try the food. When she does, she is also unable to say anything, like they are all dumbfounded. Confused, Yuya begins to wonder what is going on and asks them if the food is okay or not, only for them to yell saying the food is tasty and delicious. Miss Sawada also adds that she had tasted well-cooked meals by top chefs, but Yuya's food is more delicious, which makes Yuya become embarrassed and wonders why he is feeling proud of himself, as no one had ever tasted his cooking before. They all finish eating and Miss Sawada suddenly tells Yuya to marry her, which makes everyone present, including some teachers, shocked. But then Miss Sawada continues her proposal as she explains that she has been single all her life and is unable to cook or do normal chores because she didn't learn all of that. She also adds that she wants someone who would take care of her like Yuya. Having had enough, Keed yells at her that she cannot propose to him like that because he is her student, but Sawada shifts closer to Yuya and places her head on his arms. Meanwhile, Rin finds all of these amusing while Akira becomes envious of Yuya as Sawada suddenly places his head between her huge melons. Keed tries to pull Yuya out of his dilemma, but Rin laughs at her for caring too much, making her tell Sawada that Yuya is unable to breathe in between her giant cannons, and Sawada releases Yuya as she tells him that he just has a peek of her paradise. Later that night, Yuya uses his teleportation magic to go home to see Knight and prepares a meal for him as he explains to Knight that he likes making people happy. Later, Yuya teleports back, and when he gets back to the trip, he goes to the boys' bath, and all of the other boys begin to look at him as he removes his shirt. Having noticed the stare from the boys, he asks Akira why they are all staring at him, who tells him it is because of his beautiful abs.
Oh my god! Wow!
Meanwhile, in the ladies' bath, Keed removes her clothes to reveal her huge melons, and Rin begins to play with her melons as she tells Keed that she has a huge set of melons that she uses to injure the boys in track. Soon, Kaori and Yukine come in and Keed calls on them to help her stop Rin from bullying her, but the two begin to wonder why Keed has more melons than they do. Also, Keed tells Kaori and Yukon about Miss Sawada's proposal to Yuya, shocking Kaori, and at that moment, she begins to wonder if Yuya likes women with giant cannons. The next morning, the students wake up and they suddenly realize that someone had trashed their supplies and belongings, but Yuya checks his team's baggage, and he tells them all of their things are still intact. Later, Rin tells the rest of the team that they should go and find their breakfast, but while looking for plants, Yuya notices that Akira is not looking good and goes to meet him to ask him what is wrong with him. Suddenly, Yuya sees that Akira has been staring at a huge bear mark on a tree, but before he could say anything, Rin and Keed suddenly sees a huge figure of a bear before them, and the group begins to run away from the huge bear chasing them. The teachers come outside and direct all the other students away, while Miss Sawada decides to go and help Yuya and his team by distracting the bear by making it hit its head on a table. While taking the students away from the bear's way, Miss Sawada falls down. Yuya, after seeing that his team is safe, he quickly goes back to save her from the bear. He suddenly acts without thinking as he begins to fight and knocks the bear out, which when the bear becomes unconscious, he goes to meet Miss Sawada, who thanks him and tells him that she would not punish him as his teacher for trying to fight a bear, but instead she asks him if he would marry her as a reward for his bravery. Yuya refuses her request politely, and the students ask what would be done about the bear. Tori, however, comes up with an idea of making the bear their guard dog for their off-campus facility, and if the bear tries to attack anyone, they would simply eat it. Soon the off-campus trip comes to an end, and when Yuya sits at home to think of what he has left to do, he remembers that he has to meet with the king of Arcelia, who is Lexia's father. On their way to meet Lexia and her guards, Yuya and Nike come across a monster, and after defeating the monsters, he gets a drop item, which is a cool helmet. However, Owen drives with some other guards and Lexia to pick Yuya and Knight up, and when they all agree to be on their way to see the king, Knight suddenly sees something strange and begins to hit a tree beside Lexia. Suddenly, when the tree collapses, Yuya uses his sword to cut the tree only for him to find a deadly thread on the tree which serves as a trap. Then he asks Knight if that is what he was trying to protect Lexia, from which it confirmed it is so. Immediately, Yuya goes into the forest to look for the culprit, but to his greatest surprise, the culprit happens to be Luma, whose mask suddenly fell off while they were fighting.
Wait a minute!
Seeing she is the one, he becomes heartbroken as Lexia runs to meet him, which makes him reveal that Luna is the one that is trying to kill her. Then he begs Lexia to treat Luna in his house so as to have the opportunity to ask why she is trying to kill the princess, as he does not believe that Luna is a bad person. Lexia agrees and happily tells Owen and the rest of the guards that she is going to Yuya's house again. In Yuya's house, Lexia asks him about the kind of magic he had used to get home swiftly, which makes him begin to explain to her about his teleportation magic. Lexia warns him not to use it in front of anyone because the magical power is only formligence, and if anyone knows he possesses it, it would cause a war. Yuya takes the information to heart and Lexia suddenly calls Luna out for pretending to still be asleep, even though she had woken up since. She also adds that even Yuya knows as well, but he decided to play along as he is ignorant of what she had accused him of. Luna sits up and Lexia immediately asks to know more about her, but when Luna tries to avoid Lexia's question, Yuya also tells Luna that he would also like to know who she really is. Knowing she is in a tight corner, Luna immediately recounts how she suffers as an orphan who hardly gets by every day till she was taken in by someone from the Dark Guild who had taught her how to read and write, alongside some other skills which are used by assassins alone. She also adds that she is skilled and had been given the name Headhunter Band. At this point, Lexia confirms Luna's story as she tells Yuya that she had heard of the skilled assassins named Headhunter. Luna continues by telling them that she was given a job to kill Lexia, but she failed, therefore they should go ahead with their judgment because she would eventually die even if they do not kill her. Surprised at her words, Yuya asks why she is saying this, and she discloses that the Dark Guild would send assassins out to kill her once they know that she has failed in killing the princess. Hearing this, Yuya becomes sorry for her and asks Knight if he knew who Luna was all along. He realizes that Knight knew who she was, which explains why he was against him, helping her the first day they met. At that moment, Lexia suggests that Luna becomes her guard as she is unable to kill her, which means Luna lost, and she won and the loser would have to obey the winner. Despite her current situation, Luna resists as she tells them that she is not worthy of guarding the princess as she is an assassin who had killed a lot of people. Angrily, Lexia yells at her and tells her that only herself and Yuya are the only people that are aware of the fact that she tries to kill the princess, and if they keep it a secret, there would be no problem. Meanwhile, Owen and the other guards are still in the forest running for their lives as some monsters chase them, which makes Owen yell out loud in fear that he hopes Lexia is safe. However, in addition, Lexia tells Luna to address her informally. Then, when they have all agreed to the plan, Lexia tells Luna to tell her about Yuya's bath, to which Luna explains how Yuya possesses a bath as a drop item, making her tell Yuya that she wants to try it. Soon, Yuya prepares the bath for the ladies and Lexia asks him if he would like to join them, but he refuses. While in the bath, Lexia asks Luna if she loves Yuya, but she denies it. But after much persuasion, Luna confesses that she finds Yuya attractive and desirable, which makes Lexia declare war between the both of them so as to know who would end up with Yuya. After the bath, the two ladies begin their war, as Yuya tells them that he would prepare dinner. Lexia takes the lead by telling him she would do it. However, Lexia makes a huge disaster as she is unable to cook, which later ends with Yuya cooking, while the two ladies continue to win points for the person to gain Yuya's attention the most. The following day, Yuya and the ladies go to meet Owen and the other guards, and Yuya apologizes for leaving with Lexia for that long. Then, when Owen asks about what Knight and Luna are doing, Yuya introduces Knight while Lexia tells Owen loosely that Luna was the assassin that tried to kill her.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
At that moment, Yuya and Luna become disappointed in Lexia as Owen and the other guards point their weapons at Luna. Meanwhile, Lexia tries to explain to Owen that Luna is already her guard, but Owen does not listen to her until Yuya explains to him, and he agrees but tells them that he does not fully trust Luna. However, Yuya tells them that he would not be able to follow them to see the king again as he has a lot of personal things to do, and they all agree that Yuya should come anytime he is chanced. Yuya bids them farewell as Owen tells him how to find his way to the capital whenever he wants to visit. Surprisingly, when Lexia is in her carriage, which is already moving, Luna suddenly gets down and back to give Yuya a kiss as she tells him that she would see him soon. On seeing this, Lexia becomes jealous and tells Owen to stop the carriage as she wants to go and give Yuya a kiss as well, but Owen ignores her. On their way home, Yuya and Knight see a river and decide to take an open-air bath. Surprisingly, while taking their bath, Yuya notices a creature like Knight, but in a red color, and looks to see the skills of the creature, which makes him immediately decide to take the creature in as he names it Akatsuki. However, just when he is about to introduce the new member of their family to Knight, Knight brings a clock in order to remind him that he is getting late for school. Immediately, Yuya rushes to school, and while in class, Miss Sawada tells the students about an inter-class competition of ball games, and the physical education teacher groups the students into two teams for soccer. Yuya tells Shingo that he does not know the rules of the game, so he would start off by being the goalkeeper of his team. The game starts and Ryu takes the ball and dribbles a lot of players while Rin and Ki watch the match. Suddenly, Rin tells Ki to start jumping with her huge melons, which she gullibly does too, and Rin begins to squeeze her melons like she wants to milk a cow, causing a distraction for the boys in the field. Akira takes the ball from Ryu, who has gotten distracted, and when he aims it at Yuya, the goalkeeper, Yuya catches the ball and asks his fellow players what he is supposed to do with the ball. Ryu tells Yuya to throw the ball as hard as he can, which when he does that, the ball hits a lot of players and goes straight into the opponent's goalkeeper net. Seeing this, everyone including the teachers becomes shocked, but the innocent Yuya asks them if it counts as a point or not, only to be roasted as everyone yells at him asking if that is what he is worried about. However, Yuya is approached by a group of agents and is invited to join the entertainment industry, but turns down their offer and tell them how living a normal high school life would be better for him. Hearing this, all his classmates suddenly become surprised at his decision to be a popular person and meeting with professional voice actors and models. At that moment, Miu walks towards the student, making them wonder what a famous model is looking for among them. But then, Yuya tells them that he has met with her before and have done a magazine cover together, which gets everyone surprised. Suddenly, a friend who is in the Students' Council comes in with a flyer in her hand, which the director notices. Seeing that the school is planning an event, she comes up with a creative idea to do something with the school on the day of the sports event. Later, Yuya at night goes to the other world to see if he can get better on his own, but realizes he sees that he has to go deeper in order to get stronger. All of a sudden, he gets attacked by two monsters who he finds out are very strong by looking at their abilities, and begins to think of a way to distract them so that his animal friends can escape, but he hears a voice telling him that he will be held. At that moment, he sees a talking rabbit with a very powerful kick that destroys the two monsters and all the strong trees around them. The rabbit then begins to train them by asking to them to show him their kicks, which he finds disappointing as the kicks were not good enough. Because of this, the rabbit decides to train Yuya in a very hard way, which makes him why he is being trained in such a manner. The rabbit discloses to him that he has chosen him as a successor, and proceeds to tell him about the vile and the divine beings. Then they both agree to be each other's master and apprentice, and begin to train one another. However, the rabbit allows him to fight a boar stronger than the one they met before to prove that he has learned all that he has been taught, and Yuya immediately uses the kick ability to take out the boar, and begins to feel happy about it. Later, the rabbit insists that they rest while Yuya hopes that he does not transform in the ball sport the following day. The next day at the ball sport competition, he faces a very tough challenger who manages to strike a bit of fear in him. but he manages to conquer him by putting a hole through the table, leaving everyone speechless. He begins to have issues hitting the ball because it ends in one catastrophe, causing the other team to leave the match. During his last game with Kyori, he decides to take up the opportunity of playing the game alone after seeing that Kyori is not getting a hang of her bat. Eventually they won and later head back to change. After school, Kyori waits for Yuya at the entrance, and immediately she sees him. She tells him to walk with her. Because of this, they begin to grow fond of each other, which makes her give him a kiss on his cheeks, leaving him shocked by what just happened. Meanwhile, the director takes a look at the picture that she got from the competition and sees that it is only a matter of time before Yuya joins their agency, and her begin to wonder what major debut she wants to prepare for him. Meanwhile, Kyori insists on reading with Yuya since he is not good at mathematics. While at his place, she tells him she would like to use the restroom, and mistakenly sees the door he uses to go to another world. Knowing she now knows about his secret, he starts to tell her about everything, and she becomes surprised seeing that all he is doing is not applicable to the current world. Then she excitedly tells him that she would like to see the other world, and Yuya agrees to her request, and takes her into the world, which she finds very beautiful. He continues to explain more about the world to her, and how they use stats to operate, only for her to tell him that she wants to go deeper into the world, but Yuya refuses and promises to take her around some other time. He then begs her to keep it a secret between them, and she agrees while feeling happy that she has gotten closer to him. Meanwhile, Lexia has gotten back to her father in the castle to give a report on everything that has been happening. She tells him the reason why Yuya did not come back with them, not knowing that he has found out that his daughter was almost assassinated and tries to kill Luna, who is with her. Fortunately, he is held back as Lexia tells him to trust her and let the assassin live since she has now become her personal guard and he would have to trust her. The king eventually listens to his daughter and tells her that she can go ahead with whatever she wants. Later on, he begins to discuss with Aon about everything that has happened and gets angry that his daughter slept in the room with Yuya, because he is not worthy to be given such a privilege even if he saved his daughter's life. He gets angry and begins to use his blade to scatter the entire palace.
Now, I'm really mad!
Yuya, on the other hand, realizes that since he is on a break, he will be heading to the royal castle in another world, but find out he does not have money, and he goes to see if he can sell some of the items he has to get some coins. Luckily for him, he is given 100 coins for the peppers he sold and is told that it can survive a family of 4 for 20 years without working. Having gotten more than enough money with him, he then continues his journey into the capital and heads to the palace. On getting to there, he begins to feel weird about meeting the king dressed in an awkward manner, but the guard tells him that it is an informal audience and he need not to worry about anything. Getting inside, the king asks him if he was the one that saved his daughter, and he responds positively to the king. The king then accuses him of seducing his daughter and plans on killing him, but gets stopped as he sees that they are being surrounded by assassins. Immediately, Yuya begins to fight the assassins and takes them out one after the other, making the king's daughter love him and hug him more. The king seems displeased with this and gives him a very deadly look, which makes Yuya becomes terrified and begins to hope that the king will not kill him. They, however, beg Yuya to help them solve the issue with the assassin, which causes him to begin walking around the palace until he meets Lexia, who offers to show him around the palace. Unfortunately for Lexia, she ends up getting distracted by Luna, who insists on following them around as well, which he agrees to and begins to show him around, including the city as well. In the city, he notices the people are looking at him, which makes begin to feel nervous. Soon, he stumbles upon an adventurers guild, and the girls ask if he would like to register under the guild, and he tells them that he is in the merchant guild and will want to be part of the adventurers guild as well. They encourage him to join, and Luna insists on registering with him so as to get close to him. They go in to register and insist on measuring the amount of magic he has, only for them to notice that his magic is off the charts as he destroys the measuring ball that has been used to measure their magic. Everyone becomes surprised as the blast also alerts the entire adventurers in the guild. By the way, they are given their cards as well as all the information that they need to know about the Adventurers Guild on what they can and cannot do. However, they plan to set out by going to check a quest that they can do when suddenly, a lady named Glean sees Yuya from afar and begins to tell him how handsome he is and how she would like them to go on a quest together. At that moment, Yuya begins to feel uncomfortable as the lady is now placing her melons on his chest, which makes Lexia and Luna try to push her away from him. She decides to leave him alone but pleads with him to consider her offer. Then Yuya and the two girls head out to harvest some plants for the quest, when Luna and Lexia begin to have a contest about who can harvest the most plants, and the winner will have to spend the day with Yuya. Hearing this, he becomes surprised and goes ahead to harvest his plants separately. Suddenly, news gets to them by some guards about the prince's whereabouts and are informed that he is in trouble. Immediately, Yuya decides to set out with Owen and the guards so that Lexia and Luna will not be hurt. On getting there, they discover that the building is very quiet and gets attacked by a knife, which stabs one of the guards, who falls to the floor instantly. Seeing this, Yuya immediately goes into the building and realizes that the prince is indeed in trouble and begins to fight off the guards that are with the prince. Seeing the prince is in a mask and also how he is about to kill himself, Yuya immediately goes to stop him, and after so much restraint, he eventually succeeds in stopping him. But suddenly, they hear another blast from the wall and begin to wonder what it is, as there is a lot of smoke around where they are. Suddenly, they notices it is a girl who has come to kill the prince. Yuya, the other guards try to stop her, but she seems to be very powerful. Meanwhile, the girls also notices that Yuya is with them and can sense how powerful he is too. Then, she begins to tell him that she cannot make use of the power of the vial against him yet, which makes Yuya become surprised on hearing the vial as if he has heard it before. Suddenly, the girl begins to leave as a temporary retreat, making Yuya wonder who she is. At that moment, Owen comes to meet Yuya to tell him that they are about to begin discussions on how the prince would be dealt with, and he would like him to be there. Hearing this, Yuya thinks about it for a while and finally agrees to follow them and immediately finds his way to the palace hall. There, the prince struggles as they attempt to remove his mask, but the guards succeed by taking both his mask and his clothes off, getting everyone surprised at the scars on his body. The prince begins to tell everyone in the hall how the incident happened and the reason why he has always wanted to kill his sister, shocking everyone with every word he speaks. The prince continues by saying how he was neglected after having those scars, which makes Yuya to feel sorry for him. Then the prince tells the king that he must be killed immediately as there is no point in living. Suddenly, Yuya raises his hand, but the king tells him that outsiders should keep out of the affairs. However, Yuya tells him there is something that he would like to try, and immediately dips his hand into his storage and brings out a green herb for the prince. He forces the prince to drink it, and immediately his scars begins to fade away, and he also begins to feel healed. The prince rushes to the mirror to have a look at what his face looks like now, and to his utmost surprise, the scars have all faded off, making him very excited. Then, all of a sudden, the prince begins to laugh, knowing that he cannot escape the death sentence, but the princess tells the king she has forgiven him, and she would like the king to forgive him too. The king tells her it is not that simple, but she insists and the king has no other choice but to pardon him and have all his land seized in exchange. As compensation for his good deed, Yuya is being given the lands that were seized from the prince, since they have been deliberating about what to give him for saving the princess. The following day after school, Yuya runs out of the school premises, ignoring the numerous voices that were calling him. However, he finds his way to the other world to train in order to become stronger, so as to be able to defeat the girl he saw while trying to save the prince.
We don't do that.
While training, he gets suddenly attacked by the girl and begins to evade her attacks, unknown to him that Kori had come to his house to check on him and enters the other world. Although, she remembers that he once told her about monsters being in the forest, but now she sees him battling with a girl. However, on the other hand, Yuya continues to evade the girl's attacks, until he suddenly notices that Kori has been caught in the middle of the girl's arrow attacks, which has made her immediately go into hiding to prevent the arrows from hitting her. The strange girl tries to shoot her arrow at Yuya, but Usagi comes in time to save him and apologizes for coming late as they begin to battle. Seeing that she plans on getting revenge for her master, Usagi decides to use his trick to stop her, in which he is able to. This makes the girl become angry and decides to use the full power of the vial, which she begins to fight Usagi and ends up beating him, realizing that she is equal to him. But then, Atosuki immediately uses its power to stop her from continuing using the power of the vial. Seeing this, Usagi realizes that Atosuki is not an ordinary pig, while Yuya uses the opportunity to knock her out. However, Usagi tells Yuya that the pig will keep preventing her from using the power of the vial, and take his leave now that the fight is over. Meanwhile, Kaori is so surprised at what she has seen and tells Yuya that he has not changed at all, as he is still the Yuya she has always known no matter how much he levels up in this world. If you have watched this recap till now, type "I want to be as powerful as Yuya" in the comments. Subscribe and check out other videos. You'll definitely enjoy the story of Lucio, a hardworking dummy who has his sorry life snatched away from him in an accident that causes him to be reincarnated as an SS rank healer. He is reborn with overpowered skills that attract sexy divas to be part of his harems. Want to know more? Check out our last recap and find out. Love, like and subscribe so we can keep bringing you entertaining recaps.